2024, but wow, it feels like we just went back to January. The wind is whipping, it's freezing cold, but we'll get through it. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Walks and Wall Street. Again, today is March 19th, 2024. It's about 9:04 p.m. Eastern Time. We are reporting live from outside the GM building, as well as the Apple Store here at Fifth Avenue, the flagship. They call it the Cube. Now, it was a pretty big day for the financial markets, which really started late last night, right? Because this is a major week not only for the United States in terms of our central bank, the Federal Reserve, that's going to be setting the pace for monetary policy, but we heard from the Bank of Japan, or the BOJ, and really historic stuff. So the Bank of Japan officially ends the world's only negative interest rate regime in a historic move that abandons yield curve control. So the Bank of Japan raised its short-term interest rates, wait for it, to 0%. They raised their interest rates to 0% from negative 0.1%. Now, it looked like the market absolutely loved this because Japanese equities really took off. And we've been talking about Japanese equities for some time. Let me see if I can pull it up. If you see the camera shaking, that's because of the wind. It's probably 30 mile an hour wind gusts right now. But yeah, Japanese equities are correcting back to their 50-day, but we had 2 days now of Japanese equities correcting here, and it looks like we're going to be off to the races well into new all-time record highs. We've been writing about this in the newsletter for quite some time. Now, obviously, one of the things that's been helping the Japanese stock market is a really weak yen, right? But I want to show you guys just how massive this base is here. Check this out. So this is a monthly time frame of Japan. It topped in 1989. This was way before I was even born. And we've been building out a multi-generation, pretty much, a multi-decade long base, and we have now just busted through new all-time record highs. We had about a 2-week correction, and then after this policy decision, I mean, you had a really, really big follow-through day in Japan. So I think it's going to be important to watch that. Obviously, the reshoring of the supply chains and really the shifting of the supply chains away from mainland China. I think Japan is going to benefit in a big way. I think India is going to benefit in a big way. And also Mexico and Canada, too, are going to benefit in a major way. So that's a big piece of news. Japan no longer has negative interest rates. So the current interest rate is 0% to 0.1%. Now, tomorrow, as we all know, we hear from the Federal Reserve. Fed Chair Jerome Powell and the gang will get together to set the pace of monetary policy, and it looks like we're going to hold steady. The current Fed funds rate is 5.25% to 5.5%, and it appears that that is where it's going to stay, at least for now. You know, one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is kind of this rotation into safety that we're seeing. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, or the Dow 30, had a really good day today. It was almost up 1% on the day, and we're pretty much like 50 points away from a brand new all-time record high in the Dow. And a lot of times in bull markets, you'll see this kind of rotation, you know, out of the high beta names that have been performing really well. They'll rotate into the more safety stocks, like the Dow 30 stocks. Also, stocks like Church & Dwight, for example, like a CHD. They make baking soda and the like. You'll have a short-term rotation there, and then you'll have a rotation back into the, frothy names, so to speak. I want to quickly check up on crude oil futures. This is something I think we need to be watching. We briefly closed over $83 for crude. We came back down to $82.50 a barrel. But the XLE, which is the Spider Select Energy ETF, performed really well. It was up over 1% on the day, closing at $92.18. I think if we get a close above 93.64, it's off to the races into new all-time record highs. Ticker symbol XOM. This is ExxonMobil. This is something we also should be really watching here. It's been about 2 weeks of upside for ExxonMobil, and pretty much all of the major oil stocks across the board have been rallying. Now, you can interpret this any way you want. Doesn't really look good for inflation, right? Because the main two components of CPI that kept inflation elevated were number one, shelter costs, and number two, gasoline, right? Crude oil, gasoline, energy, and the like. So let's keep our eye on the energy sector as we head into the busy travel season of the spring and summer. I think that's going to be very important to watch. And last but not least, we'll check in on the IWM, which is the Russell 2000. Russell 2000 sold off almost the entire day and then rallied back to close at the high of the day. It was up about a half a percentage point, closing at 200. All right, let's go ahead and get the stream started, everybody. Just a quick announcement, if you haven't already. Last Thursday, I did send out our free investing newsletter, the Behind the Street newsletter. We talked a lot about fiscal policy in the newsletter, so please go ahead and check your email if you have not already received it. And if you want to sign up to have all of our equity research and market thoughts to your inbox every other Thursday, just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen or type !news, NEWS in the chat, and you will be signed up to our Substack. If you go to our Substack page, we have over 2 years of archived research. You can have all the downloads. Everything you need is there, and feel free to take advantage of it. So I'm going to go ahead and close up the laptop. I'll say hello to everybody in the chat, and let's get the stream started. Happy first day of spring to everybody, although it's freezing. All right. All right, hopefully the audio won't be too weird tonight because I am in a big puffer jacket and I have to use the microphone. But it's good to see everybody. A Collector's Dream is here. Welcome, welcome. Richard Vogel, Jeff W277, good to see you. Andrew, welcome. The Mighty Bull, Al Baker's, it's $3.60 here in Hollywood. For a gallon of gas. Wow. Robert says happy first day of spring. Ace Options Trading says I had no idea it was spring. Yeah, I have no idea either. New York City weather is very bipolar. It's very strange weather we have here, right? It gets very volatile, particularly in the month of March and April. One weekend it could be 70 degrees and bright sunshine out, and then the next weekend it could be, 36 degrees, and we have a mix of rain and snow and slush and all that craziness. Who dat Dave, what's going on? Andy, welcome. Says hello. Trish 2020. Thanks so much for joining us. We have a beautiful view of the Plaza Hotel. Probably not going to be too many people out tonight because it's so cold. Let's walk down Central Park South, and then we will kind of walk through the belly of the beast, so to speak, which is Times Square. This is the flagship Fifth Avenue Apple store. Apple had a little bit of a recovery day. Now, you know what's interesting, guys? We've been talking about how Tesla stock has been getting hammered. My friend sent me this video. We're kind of looking down through the Apple store of everybody buying the Vision Pro. These are like little cool portals. They look like mushrooms. And if you look down, there's still people buying this Vision Pro. Look at them all. But anyway, my friend sent me a video today. I believe the first Cybertruck orders are being sent to customers. So did anybody see the Cybertruck that Steve Aoki got? I mean, that thing looks incredible, right? Elon Musk posted it on X, and it kind of got me thinking two things, right? Number one, every time Elon Musk sends out a post or a tweet or really whatever you want to call these things now, I don't even know what to call them, posts, they get millions and millions and millions of views. So it's like Elon in and of itself is the marketing arm for Tesla, right? Elon Musk doesn't have to go to a big advertising agency or marketing agency for advice. I mean, especially with all the controversy he has in the news now, I mean, anytime he posts anywhere, I mean, all the major news sites are going to pick it up. So I think that post has millions of views already. And it was Steve Aoki, who's, I guess, is a really big DJ, one of the biggest DJs around, big musician, taking receipt of the first Cybertruck. Anybody here order a Cybertruck by chance, or thinking about getting a Cybertruck anytime soon? The more I see them, and there's probably going to be many, many reviews and things like that on YouTube. The more I see them, the more I really, really like it. I used to be all in on the Tesla Model X, but I don't know, the Cybertruck seems quite interesting. This is Grand Army Plaza right here. Brian says, yes, I saw the Cybertruck on the road when I visited LA over the Christmas season. Yeah, when I've seen the Cybertruck on the road once, and that was in North Miami Beach, Florida, and it almost didn't even look real. I had to do a double take because they're so big. If you've ever seen a Cybertruck in person, they're massive. These things are insane. This is 432 Park Avenue, and the black building on the right is Trump Tower. Eric says, I just ordered the Cybertruck as we speak. Oh, very cool. Ace Options Trading says, I want to get a Cybertruck when I get back to Florida. MN says, you would be an idiot to buy a Cybertruck? I may be an idiot, honestly. I may get one. I don't know. But maybe a little bit further down the line, because I don't think it's even possible to fit a Cybertruck in a New York City parking garage. Sean D says, I got one last week at the dealer. You can see over the hood from the driver's seat. It's big. Really interesting. Wow. Richard Vogel says, I'll keep my Chevy Tahoe. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the big talk of the town, right? The big talk of the town is Tesla going to fall off, and is BYD going to kind of overtake? MN says, buy a Toyota Tundra or GMC. You guys are stupid. I think I'm going to buy 2 Cybertrucks now. I'm going to make it a point to spend how much do they cost anyway? I think I've been seeing some resales of like $250,000 for a Cybertruck or something ridiculous. I'm gonna blow $500,000 on 2 Cybertrucks, and I'm never gonna use them, and I'm just gonna park them on the street, and I'm gonna let them accrue tickets. That's my plan. Hey, Mr. King of Florida, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. We're walking past the residences at the Plaza Hotel. But you know what? Oh, wow. Ace Options Trading says they're 180K. Crypto Meme says they're 69K. Well, regardless, I was looking at the Ford F-150. I think the most expensive Ford F-150 is about $150,000, which is crazy. I mean, cars are getting, with all these bells and whistles, they're getting extremely, extremely expensive. It's insane. That's another interesting bull thesis for semiconductors too, right? with all these EVs that are going to be coming out. This is a nice shot of the American flag here overlooking Deutsche Bank towers. There's 2 times the amount of chips or semiconductors in an EV than there is a regular vehicle. And I remember last Christmas, I should say 2 Christmases ago, there was an article that came out and it was on the company Polaris. And I believe that is a company who makes and manufactures snowmobiles, ATVs, and other kind of, what would you call them, winter sports or something, those vehicles. And the demand was so high for snowmobiles and all those type of vehicles, ATVs and things that they make, that they were just shipping them without any of the electronic components because of the semiconductor shortage. It's really crazy. So, maybe if you want to be a little bit risk averse, right? You don't want to pick a winner in terms of an EV manufacturer or something like that. Well, then maybe you could just purchase and just get long the semiconductor companies or a semiconductor ETF that essentially sells the pickaxes and the shovels for this EV gold rush that we have, and AI gold rush too. Soho Joe, what's going on? This is Hey Tom in chat. Thanks so much for joining us. Jeff W277 says, I'm still waiting to see what GM makes at factory. I ran around it tonight. It's only 1.5 miles away. Wow. Stan says, I love my 2003 Camry. Just had it painted. Always keep it clean with the original parts. Love that. NAV407, Valor Rabbits is not a fan of the Cybertruck, but to each their own. Still looks like early video game models come to life to me. Now, what is everybody's opinion on this narrative that once Tesla really perfects autonomous driving, not the self-driving it has now, but I'm talking about like real 100% autonomous self-driving, that you're going to be able to use your Tesla as sort of like a profit center in a way. I don't know. I think that's pretty far off. And I guess what I mean by that is Elon and a lot of other, I should say, notable people in this space are claiming that once self-driving technology can get advanced enough, while you're at work, so you would jump in your car would drive you to work, then your car would be working for you, like doing Uber and other errands for other people, and making money while you're at work, and then it would kind of pick you up. So what would that do to business models of Uber? Would that destroy the business model of Uber, or would it send the business model of Uber to the stratosphere, right? Because what is Uber's biggest expense probably right now? Paying the drivers. So if you take away the human drivers, right, and this is total speculation. I have no idea if this is even possible, but a lot of people are talking about it. What is that going to do for profit margins at Uber? I don't know. It's insane. Stylish Bunny says, don't they already have self-driving car service in California? I think they might, but in some very select sections of cities. I don't think that it's not like across the entire state, I believe. MN says, you think in 20 years? Ace Options Trading says, I won't mind it. I would enjoy... Yeah, it'll essentially tell you how far along technology has come, for sure. Crypto Meme says, you don't think it's too far away? Joel PM says, I would prefer a super basic Chevy truck, bench seat, manual transmission, crank windows. Now maybe there's a market for that, right? It looks like it's snowing right now, doesn't it? Maybe that's just me. Looks like there's snow flurries. But with how expensive all these vehicles are right now, maybe there's a market to have some little teeny auto OEM startup come out with a vehicle that is super basic. I'm talking no bells and whistles, the crank roll down windows, so no electric windows, nothing, and just mass market the product for like $10,000. Who knows? Gene S is when the computer in your car goes belly up. You'll be glad for crank down windows? Maybe. But what is the duration and the probability that the computer goes belly up? Maybe like once every 6 years, then you just take it to the shop and get it fixed. So it's not like I would want to have crank down windows to account for maybe 2 days of inconvenience of the duration of the car. But I definitely see what you're saying. UniJ23, thanks for joining us. Someone says they did that with the Volkswagen Bug. This is the Essex House. Hey, Triple G says autonomous driving will change the business models of Uber, similar to the TNLC. They'll make things difficult and require expensive medallions for every car, just a guess. Ooh. Hopefully not. I think there's still litigation now in New York City with all the taxi medallions. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that. I mean, some of those stories are heartbreaking. If you want to talk about a speculative bubble, forget talking about Bitcoin. You could talk about those taxi medallions. Some people came to the United States and were coerced in really, honestly, like what I like to call predatory lending schemes into going into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to buy a taxi medallion. So if you ever take a yellow cab in New York City, you'll see a big medallion on the front. There were a lot of people that were purchasing these medallions for quite literally hundreds of thousands of dollars. In some cases, $1 million, right? And they thought that was going to be their retirement. However, we live in a very disruptive world, so you have things like Uber and Lyft that came along and essentially eroded the valuations of those taxi medallions to pretty much zero, right? I mean, now anybody could just go buy a car or even rent a car and drive Uber, drive Lyft. And a lot of times these were very high interest loans. All right, everybody, we are now right at Central Park South. Pretty soon, before you know it, Central Park is going to have all beautiful leaves here. This building is 200 Central Park South. This is a co-op, but this is a really nice building. I love this design. You have these complete wraparound balconies here. And then right behind it, you have Central Park Tower and 220 Central Park South. I would love to have an apartment in this building. Wouldn't that be cool just to be able to sit out on your balcony here and just overlook Central Park every single day? It would be amazing. And think about during the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I mean, think about that. The parade comes right down through here, and you're going to have a front row view every single year. That's pretty incredible. Hey, Robert Parker. Says, Tom, snow is expected Thursday night. It's going to fall to a low of 28. That's crazy. Well, I'm not surprised. It's New York weather for you. It looks like it's snow flurrying now a little bit, which is wild. Brad says, I'm a huge Musk fan. Tesla will bounce, but the truck's going to hit them hard. Now, did anybody? I have a question, and we're not going to get political, but I think it ties into, the market and Tesla and things like that. Did anybody watch the brand new Dom Lemon interview with Elon Musk? Did anybody get a chance to watch that? If you haven't, I would give it a listen. I thought it was a good interview. I liked it a lot. It's kind of good to see both sides there. But from a business standpoint, one of the questions that was asked by Dom Lemon to Elon Musk is, Tesla, he essentially was throwing a little bit of a shot at Elon, saying that Tesla stock is down right now. Do you think that's because of all your antics? And, on and on and on. And Elon Musk said, the stock prices fluctuate up and down. What we're most worried about and what we have all of our focus on is building great products and services, right? He's like, so I don't really think about the stock price that often. I think about building the best product imaginable, unlike anything else. And then they kind of went on to talk about the brand new Tesla Roadster that is going to be coming out. And that's exactly the answer you want from a rock star CEO, right? Particularly since the rock star CEO is Elon Musk, he also happens to be a crazy talented engineer and a genius, right? I truly believe that. I really don't think that Elon cares about the short-term fluctuations in the stock. And there's a lot of CEOs out there that will give into Wall Street short-term, right? There's actually been some speculation that, and petitioning on this from big companies that's saying, look, we don't want to report quarterly because that could potentially make us a little bit more short-sighted to say, hey, we need to meet these Wall Street expectations every quarter, and if we don't, Wall Street's going to punish the stock. So that's who you want to bet on long term, is we don't care about the short-term wiggles in the stock price. We have all of our energy focused on building the greatest products and services for customers at the most affordable price, and the share appreciation is going to take care of itself over time, right? So I suggest checking out that interview and paying close attention to that answer, because there's a lot of lessons in there, right? Even for people like us, right? Maybe you're just working at your job, you're trying to start a company, you're trying to start a business, right? Sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, it's more appropriate to play the long game. And if that means losing a little bit of money now to gain market share so you can dominate in the long term, that's the play. And all rock star CEOs and successful people, they have that trait about them, that they're not worried about the short-term, fluctuation in the stock. They're not worried about, what the Wall Street analyst says, hey, your margins are compressing right now. We're going to initiate a sell rating. They're just focused on the long term no matter what. This is West 58th Street. We're looking up to Columbus Circle and the Trump International Hotel. Yeah, Robert says they also talked about censorship a lot. They did. Stan says could not sit through it. No respect for his personality. God will save Elon. Yeah, I mean, they obviously have two totally different political perspectives, like complete polar opposite, right? But I think those are kind of the things that you want to watch, right? You can't just live in a little bubble. But yeah, from a business perspective, I think there was a lot of lessons there. You know, thinking in terms of 5 and 10 year leaps. You know, what am I doing right now to the business that's going to get me to where I want to be in 5 or 10 years? And if you could break it down by decisions, right? So every decision you make throughout the day or the week, you say, is this decision going to move me further down the field to getting to where I need to be in 5 and 10 years? And I think that's how the Tesla engineering teams really think. Now, he alluded to the Tesla Roadster that's going to be a little bit like something out of the Jetsons, which is crazy. Hey, go forward, what's going on? Says it can hit 60 miles per hour in under a second. Yeah, he said something like that in the interview too. That's going to be insane. I can't even fathom that. Like, is that safe to hit from 0 to 60 in under 1 second? Like, I don't even know how that's going to work. Yeah, but when Dom Lemon was asking Elon, he's like, you know, you have the Tesla Roadster coming out. You know, what can you tell us, right? And obviously Elon didn't want to give a lot away, but I think, you know, Dom did a good enough job of trying to pry out as much information as possible. And according to Elon, this thing is going to be ridiculous. Dom Lemon was like, is it going to have wings, the car? And Elon was like, wings-ish. Like, what? This thing, I mean, things could get really crazy. I mean, we'll see if they deliver on all their promises. But if that's the case, you know, I think you have a big winner in that. We have the Brooklyn Diner here. If you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams almost every single day starting at 8:30. I know. NAV407 says there is talk that the new Tesla Roadster will have an optional small rocket engine. Like, you guys got to see this interview. My jaw literally fell on the floor when Elon was like, there's going to be a lot of cross collaboration with the Tesla engineering team and the SpaceX engineering team for the new Roadster. It's like, what is this thing going to be, a literal rocket ship? I mean, how is, you know, Ford, GM, how are they even going to possibly compete with that? Because at the end of the day, you know, I got to give you guys another really good keynote speech you have got to watch. Okay, so if you don't take away anything from this live stream, take away this little piece of info, okay? Now, I want you to go and Google or go on YouTube, open up another tab, and type in Barron Fund's 2023 keynote. Yeah, 2023 keynote. So for those of you who don't know, Barron Funds is one of the most successful growth stock, essentially investment companies. They run a lot of mutual funds in the world, right? It's run by Ron Barron. They're located right here in New York City. And in their investor day, they presented an interesting slide, and I think I included this in the Behind the Street newsletter. But they said that it's harder to get a job at Tesla or SpaceX than it is to get into Harvard or Yale. So I'll say that again. It's more competitive and it's more difficult. The competition is so high to get a job at Tesla. You're gonna have an easier time getting into Harvard or Yale than it is to get a job at SpaceX or Tesla. So the point I'm trying to make is 100% of the top talent in engineering wants to work for Tesla and wants to work at SpaceX. How is it going to be even remotely possible for these other auto OEMs to compete? Right? It's going to be like almost impossible. So when you hear things like the Roadster is going to have cross collaboration from the engineers at SpaceX and the engineers at Tesla, I mean, I feel like that's a nail in the coffin for these other auto OEMs, in my opinion. Sharon says, is it the same as Barron's? No, so this is Ron Barron with one R. He's an incredible investor. This is the Alwyn Court, by the way, right here. But if you just type in Ron Barron, just Google his name, and then just look up his most recent keynote speech, you got to watch that. If you have some time this weekend, it's like a 45-minute presentation to investors. That is like a requirement to watch that. And it touches on a lot of good business lessons too. A lot of the stuff that we've touched on in this live stream about long-term thinking and playing the long game, right? And betting on winners. Essentially giving money, rewarding good CEOs and good entrepreneurs with your dollars, right? And that's really what capitalism is. I think I may have programmed a Nightbot command. If you type ! Barron in the chat, maybe it'll drop the link. I'm not too sure. DJ Apocalypse says, Elon Musk said he doesn't care if you don't have a college degree, but I highly doubt his employees have GEDs. Yeah, I would agree. I would highly doubt that too. I think maybe the point he's trying to make in general is that he doesn't care about the fancy degrees. He just cares about like your actual acumen. But in the real world, right, there is a high correlation between, smarts and your acumen if you went to a top school. Like there's high correlation there, right? And I think a lot of people, who hound on this narrative that, and college isn't perfect, right? I'm not a big proponent of, I wouldn't say everybody should go to college, but if you look at the data, right, almost all of the big billionaires, entrepreneurs, and business leaders, they went to Ivy League schools, okay? And, Elon Musk didn't drop out of, some random school, in, I don't know. You get the point, right? Mark Zuckerberg, when he was building Facebook, he didn't drop out of a community college. Okay, he dropped out of Harvard, and that's nothing against community colleges. I'm just trying to make a point, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to college and get a degree to be successful. I totally agree with that. But there is high correlation between going to a top school and moving up the corporate ladder, things like that. There is high correlation there, but I totally agree. All right, let me catch up on some of the chats. Hey, Tony says, love your channel. I was in New York 2 months ago, and we did a lot of walking at night, watching your show. is Reliving the Magic. Thank you from Canada. Hey, well, thank you to all of our Canadian viewers, and hopefully you can come back to New York pretty soon. Hopefully you can come back in the summer when the weather's a lot better too. Mark says, Tom, are you concerned about what they're saying online? Are you concerned about what they're saying online? How it's going to be safe living in New York in the coming years? Could you rephrase your question? I'm not sure I understand. I'll take you guys up here because you're going to see a really nice view of 157. Look at this. So this is the first building ever constructed on New York City's Billionaires Row, 157 West 57th Street. If you guys want to see what one of the apartments looks like, you could type !57 in the chat. I just love the look of that building. I also like the Essex House, the JW Marriott Essex House right here. And I can't wait until all this scaffolding comes down on the Carnegie Hall. You know, we've been talking about Tesla a lot and all these technologies with, you know, autonomous driving, the new Tesla Roadster. And, you know, it hits me that this is the stuff that's out right now. I mean, this is all of the technology that's out right now in 2024. Can you imagine what's going to be out in 2054? I mean, things are going to get so crazy. I mean, that's kind of how we have to think, right? We have to condition ourselves to have the imagination to envision how much better life is going to be, how much more advanced technology is going to be in 50 years, 60 years from now. And that, like, I feel like once we get in that frame of mind, we're going to be a lot more optimistic on the world, and we can make these big sizable bets in these technologies that's going to change the world. So, I mean, in 2024, if we have a Tesla Roadster with a potential rocket engine in it, what are we going to have in 50 years? Nutan Patel says it's so cold outside. It is. It's cold tonight. Brad's Brain says college at current cost levels is an imbalance proposition for at least 50% of students. Unless you have specific direction, it's a bad move for a kid. I generally agree. The problem is it's very expensive in most cases to go to college. So I think, you know, if you don't really know what you want to do, but then you have to go to college and take out a bunch of student loans, I think that's a really bad idea. I think that's a misallocation of capital. But if you know what you want to do, let's say if, you know, you want to go to college and become a veterinarian, and then you spend, you know, the $100,000 to $200,000 that it costs to become a veterinarian, I think that's a good ROI, right, over time. But, you know, if you're going to spend that much money to do, you know, something that's not going to reward you with a high-paying career, then maybe it's not the best idea, right? It's essentially just a risk assessment, right? It's a risk assessment with anything, right? So maybe if you want to study something that's fun, but you know that it's probably not going to yield you a high salary after graduation or upon graduation. I don't know what this guy's doing. There he goes. Well, then maybe you can study that, but at a college that's very affordable to do so, right? But I still think, if you can get, and I know there's been a lot of controversy now with the, Ivy League schools becoming quote unquote woke. And that's not coming from me. This is just what the news is reporting, and a lot of notable alumni. I didn't go to an Ivy League school, so I don't know the ins and outs, but there's a lot of notable alumni from these Ivy League institutions that have said the quality of the education has been in decline at these institutions. However, I do still believe that if you're smart enough to get into an Ivy League university in the United States, you should probably go. Honestly, you should probably go. Because the networking experience is unmatched, right? It's kind of like a big club. I really believe in the proximity is power thesis, right? Particularly if you want to work in finance or in law or in tech, just the network of people that you're going to be with. Maybe you want to start a company with those classmates. Chances are somebody's going to have a really wealthy dad or mom who's going to be able to fund your venture. Things like that. Very well connected. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's just a risk assessment. Robert Brun says, do you really think Tesla is going to build a car with a rocket engine in it? It'll never happen. I mean, maybe. We'll see. I mean, that's what Elon Musk alluded to in the interview with Dom Lemon. Now, I don't know if he's telling the truth, but I believe it. I mean, why not? I mean, he claims, right, this is his big claim, if you also watch that interview. He said that one of his main life goals is to make humanity an interplanetary species. I mean, think about how a crazy, ridiculous goal that is, right? So if this guy is going to get us to Mars, right, and have humans live on Mars, then, maybe having a rocket engine in a car doesn't sound like the biggest, craziest thing. But again, I don't know. I'm not an Elon Musk. I'm not an engineer. I'm not that smart. But I know Elon Musk is. And if I had to make a bet, I'd say, he probably could do it. Hey, Jay is here. Says I was there for a month in August. Well, hopefully you can come back this August too. This is BNP Paribas, the French investment bank. Daniel G. from Buenos Aires, Argentina. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Brad's Brain says, Tom, your professor cried when Trump won. This is true. That actually happened. That's an incredible insight to the wokeness at the colleges. Yeah, it was a little surprising. This was in 2016, obviously. And yeah, it was a little I was still a little taken back by that. I think we all need to have a little bit more mental fortitude, particularly if you're a teacher, right? You're supposed to be inspiring the students, right? A professor, right? So regardless of who wins, you need to be, encouraging your students that, hey, regardless of the outcome, you could do whatever you want. You're going to be successful upon graduation, not, have a pity party. I don't know. Maybe that's my personality. Maybe I'm a little bit oblivious, but I kind of like that. I like being a little bit oblivious, overly optimistic. It's just like, put me in the game, coach. I'll run through a wall. I don't care. Peter says, when I went to Vanderbilt, love Vanderbilt University. Wow, the tuition was $3,500 a year. Now it's $61,000. Well, I love Vanderbilt University. I didn't go to Vanderbilt, for education. I visited Nashville, Tennessee. This was way back when I used to work at AT&T. And our meeting got canceled in downtown Nashville, and we spent the whole day walking around the campus of Vanderbilt University. And that place was really spectacular. Now, all of the experience I have in college is pretty much just going into a skyscraper in New York City. So being able to see just the vastness of Vanderbilt University, all the amazing architecture, it's a real campus. I mean, I loved Nashville, Tennessee, and I loved Vanderbilt. I would go back in a heartbeat if I could. Huge fan of Indy. I got to see the baseball fields. I guess they have one of the best baseball teams in the country. Hey, Jay says, yeah, man, thanks. I have this May booked for a few days. Very cool. August was very hot this summer. You know what? Jay, you make a good point. A lot of people, they don't realize this, but New York City is very, very hot and humid in the summer. Right? So a lot of people who kind of throw shade at Miami, Florida, it's just like a big rivalry, New York and Miami. They say, I can never live in Miami because it's so hot and humid. Have you ever tried riding the 1 train during rush hour on an August afternoon, and it's like 105 degrees in the subway and you're sandwiched between 800 other passengers? New York City is very, very hot and extremely humid in the summer, but I like it like that. So this is the corner of West 50th Street and 7th. Now this is the old Lehman Brothers. Now it is the Barclays Investment Bank. Hey, Karina Thompson, welcome. Dario says, look at the right side. Oh, the best sandwich ate in New York City, really? I'll have to go back and check that out. Now, the Carnegie Deli used to be right up here, but unfortunately it closed down, and now there's nothing in its place. It's just a total vacant building. But if you want to get a good Reuben sandwich, you got to go to New York City's Lower East Side and go to Katz's Deli. That place is really good, but it's only cash, I believe. I actually don't know that. They may have changed it, but the last time I went there it was cash only. That's an awesome place, Katz's Deli. Please God, they never close that down. There's only a handful of really good Jewish delis now, which is really, really sad, There's another really good, guys, if you want like a crazy good Jewish deli, you gotta head out to Long Beach, New York. Now this is like, if you have a couple days, maybe like a couple weeks to spend in New York City, take the Long Island Railroad out to Long Beach. This is in Long Island, and just a few blocks down from the train station. I'm blanking on the name, but that's an awesome, awesome, awesome spot right there in the town of Long Beach, New York. I'm going to try to see if I can remember the name of it. I don't know. I'm horrible with names, but that's a good one right out there in Long Beach. Hey, Rick says, we will be staying at the Manhattan Club for a few days next week. Love Midtown and your nightly live streams. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, well, please God, it warms up a little bit. Like I said, one of my predictions about New York this summer, I think it's going to be one of the most traveled, or I should say, the busiest for tourists this summer. I can kind of feel it. Like anytime you have a 60 degree day in New York, leading out of this winter, I mean, the city's been rocking. It's going to be awesome. Bart Simpson says, what's the best place to go for lox? I'm not a big fan of it, honestly. I just don't like it. So I don't know. I've tried it once, but I can't eat it. I'll give you a good bagel spot. All right, I'll give you a really good bagel spot. I'll give you two of them. We'll do a 2 for 1. Now, there's multiple locations, but the location I like the best is right outside of my office. It's on 58th Street and Madison, like right on that cross section there. It's called Liberty Bagel. So if you're visiting, that's a really good bagel spot. They'll make you any sandwich you want. They'll make you lox, whatever. But they have really good bagels. Liberty Bagel. There's also another location pretty close to the Moynihan Train Hall. So Penn Station, you could think 34th Street and 7th. So that's number 1. But my favorite place that I never get to go anymore, because I don't work in Lower Manhattan anymore, is called Leo's Bagels. And the last time it's right off of Stone Street in Hanover Square, by the way. So if you want to, go out for a night of drinks in the city in a really, really cool place, check out Stone Street. That's an awesome, awesome place. But Leo's Bagels is really good. That's my favorite, hands down, my favorite bagel shop in New York. Right off of Hanover Square. And they just expanded their storefront there too. But yeah, not a big fan of lox. Hey Darren, this is good evening from Sydney, Australia. What's up? Ace Options Trading says, what about Tompkins Square Bagel? Or Tompkins Square Park Bagel? I've been to it once. It's all right, but the line is so long, and not a big fan of the neighborhood over there. Lee says, Tom, do you have a favorite Irish bar in Manhattan? I actually do. I have a new favorite. Well, the food is good, and I like the environment. It's called PJ Carney's. We were just there, by the way. That's so funny I didn't point it out. So it's literally adjacent from Carnegie Hall and Alwyn Court. So jot that down in your journal too. That's a fun place to go because it's like very tightly packed in there, and the environment is great because it fills up when everybody gets out of the performances at Carnegie Hall. So the place is called PJ Carney's. It's very good. 57th Street and 7th Avenue, right there on the corner. And they have a really good burger. And it's a fun environment. I like it a lot. So check it out. Now I believe Namora is in here too. Hey, Dan saying, what's up? This is Tom. You need to start drinking soon so we can grab a beer together. I'll go out. I'm not a big drinker though. Darren Robinson says, Tom, do you know a breakfast place called Morning Star? I don't think I do. Now, if you want the best breakfast in New York City, this place is fantastic. You got to go all the way to the Upper West Side of Manhattan. It's a place called Good Enough to Eat. That's a really, really good place. So check it out. It's called Good Enough to Eat. Right on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. But if you're gonna go on a weekend, you gotta get there really early because the place is always packed. This is Worldwide Plaza. Hey, Talent 103, this is Tal Bagels, is currently my favorite in New York City. Let me take a screenshot of that. Mox says Long Beach has really good bagels too. You know what I really miss, by the way? I forget the name of it, but if you go to the town of Massapequa Park, I have to get out there. I haven't been out to Long Island in a long time. But if you go to the town of Massapequa Park, okay, just take the train, the Babylon line to Massapequa Park, and there's an amazing bagel spot there. I forget the name of it. But there's also a really good coffee shop called Massapequa Perk. So Massapequa and then Perk, P-E-R-K. My freshman year of college, that would be my morning commute. I would ride my bike to the train, go to that bagel spot, get a coffee, and then get on the train. There's a lot of good spots, a lot of good routines you can get into here. Now, New York City has been getting so many of these dispensaries. Thoughts on these, everybody? Unbiased, just interested to know your thoughts. This one's probably one of the largest ones I've ever seen. Now, if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams every night starting at 8:30. Now, this is the FDNY. This is Engine 54, Ladder 4, Battalion 9. Big respect to the FDNY, New York City's bravest. 2 thumbs up. Peter says legalized pot is a bad idea. I don't know. I support it, and I don't smoke weed. I think one of the worst things that ever happened to this country is this bogus war on drugs. It's really ruined a lot of people. Life is all about incentives, right? We just need to be giving the people the appropriate incentives. And I think if you could have a system where it's properly regulated, like I've said this before, I'm very outspoken about, New York City totally bungled this whole, legalizing marijuana with all these mini dispensaries here. There's really no, it's just like, essentially, allegedly, I can't, say, but almost all of these smoke shops, allegedly, are just big fronts for, narcotics operations, fentanyl. I mean, it's quite obvious. And a lot of them are like illegal operations. So it could have been really organized and nice. But the city of New York totally destroyed any hopes of that being a success. So I think it's just poor governance, if anything. But in terms of a moral standpoint, you shouldn't go to jail, right? You shouldn't have your freedoms ripped away from you if you're smoking marijuana. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. Nonviolent crimes to the most extent, right? Now, white collar stuff, yeah, I think you should go to jail if you're ripping people off, right? But if you're just at home smoking weed by yourself, is that the life choice that I would want to live? No, but You're not hurting anybody. I don't think you should go to jail for that. I think that's ridiculous. That's just me. Everybody has their own opinion. But I think that's ridiculous because, that costs taxpayers a lot of money, right? If we're going to put you in the pen, we got to pay for your food. We got to pay to house you, keep these prisons in operation. So to throw people in jail for like drug possession of weed, I think is kind of ridiculous. All right, everybody, this is New York City's Restaurant Row. This is on the corner of West 46th Street and 8th Avenue. Now, you know what a lot of big Wall Street firms are getting into now? And I'm actually curious, I want to ask the audience here. Maybe we have some expertise here. A lot of notable investors that I respect a lot, are really, really optimistic, and I should say bullish on the whole psychedelics. I don't really want to consider it a mania. But what is everybody's thoughts on that? Is there anything valid there? Because some very, very big and respected money managers on Wall Street, big financial firms, are very optimistic on psychedelics. I like these 3 lone buildings here. Like, these are the 3 holdouts. Everything else is pretty much bought out and demolished. I'd love to know what the story is for these 3 buildings. It's wild to think that New York City pretty much looked all like this, right? These pre-war, low-rise buildings. And now look what it's become. It's insane. Yeah, Bond 007 says jail is a business. Yeah, like the private prison enterprises, I think that's shouldn't be a thing. Brad's Brain says we need to outlaw for-profit prisons and enforce public weed smoking more strictly. Yeah, I agree. I think it just needs to be better regulations and boundaries. Right, just like how you can't smoke in a restaurant anymore. Now, I don't remember those days, but I'm sure many of you remember when, you could go to a restaurant and smoke cigarettes, right? Or when you could go to the office and smoke cigarettes, right? Now, we just need to have those appropriate boundaries. Now, thank God you can't go on the subway and smoke cigarettes anymore. Although, in 2024, if you've ridden the subway, it seems like they've re-legalized smoking cigarettes. Anyway. But just like you can't smoke in the office, just like you can't smoke on a plane anymore, they need to, just like you can't smoke inside in a restaurant, they need to regulate it like that. Rotten says microdosing is a thing. MD says I'm invested in MNMD. I'll take a screenshot to see what that is. Adam says, Tom, what year did you graduate John Jay, and what was your major? I was the class of 2018, and I majored in criminal justice and economics. What about you? Wow, Go Forward says you could smoke in hospitals too? How crazy backwards is that? That's ridiculous. Now, speaking of hospitals, United Health, I should say, speaking of hospitals, healthcare in general, United Health I believe is the largest component in the Dow, had a really good day today, and I think that the business of home health is going to be the fastest, well, I should say one of the fastest growing businesses in the healthcare space. There is a publicly traded company that has a very large home healthcare business. They're called Motive Care. The ticker symbol is MODV. Now, I'm not saying go buy it or go sell it. I'm just saying that I think over the long term in the US, if you look at the aging population and the demographics, the fastest growing portion of our population is seniors. And I don't know, if you've ever talked to a senior, they don't want to go to a nursing home. They don't want to leave their home. They want to age in place with dignity. And in most cases, in order to do that, right, some seniors don't have family, so they need home health care. They need a home health aide to come help them out, maybe clean up their house, cook for them, make sure they're checking up and taking the medication and things like that. So I think home health care is going to be a really big business and an expanding business. Motive Care was actually a very big customer of mine. Uh, 914 says, Tom, psychedelics are being used in mental health and have a positive effect. Still not FDA approved yet. Well, look, I'm all for it. Assuming it's viable, right? Assuming it's real. If psychedelics are proven to help with these things, I would think it'd be better than all these other, harsh medications and pills that everybody's taking. But again, I'm not really well versed in it, but I have an open mind. MD says, I say turn the malls into nursing homes for Gen Xers. That could actually be an interesting solution for those vacant malls that are all over the place. Samuel says just pay a caregiver $20 an hour. I think that's what home health care is, and I think that's how much they make. Someone says, do you mean Xanax? I'm actually not sure what I mean. I don't really know the names of all those drugs. Now, I've heard that psychedelics can really help with depression, right? So I know a lot of people that are on a lot of these depression medications. Some people have really positive results with them and it helps, and some people don't. So if we can find an alternative that actually really does help and doesn't have any of the negative side effects, I'm for that. I don't know how Big Pharma will feel about that, but we'll see. It looks like there's a lot of smart people working on a lot of interesting things, and that's what's encouraging to me, at least. Everything in Miami says MDMA helps with PTSD. Amy says, are Army troops taking over New York City? I'm not seeing them. Seems good. Yeah, New York City looks great tonight. Now, I think what you're referring to is the governor, Kathy Hochul, has deployed the National Guard into the subways just to give a presence and make things a little bit safer. I always say this. the media kind of brings about a lot of fear, but everything you're seeing is not untrue. So all the craziness that goes on in the subway, all the theft, all the burglary, all the battery, all the assault, that's all real, and it happens every day, but it happens in very specific places, in isolated incidents, because New York City in itself is a massive place, right? And a lot of people have different experiences, and I'm kind of glad we're talking about this, because this is the problem that I see, and this is the only political thing I'll say, but I think it's important to say it. From my experience, right? Interacting with people in the city who are extremely wealthy and who are middle class and also who are very poor. The policy that's being implemented by very, very wealthy and supported by very wealthy New Yorkers, I should say elitists, they try to be all lovey-dovey, but they're actually hurting the poorest of the New Yorkers. And let me explain why. Number one, New York City is the best place on earth to be if you have a ridiculous amount of money, okay? Because if you're a big banker, you're being driven around in this guy, right? A town car, a big black car, right? You don't take the train, right? If you're Jamie Dimon, are you on the subway? No, you're not. Okay, if you're Alvin Bragg, are you taking the subway? No, you're getting driven around in a big black car to and from your luxurious apartment with a swimming pool, a basketball court in the building. So you can kind of get detached and become oblivious to what it's like for an average everyday New Yorker that has to take the train every day, that has to walk the streets maybe 20 blocks to get where they're going, right? So during the day-to-day of being a normal human who doesn't have the luxury of having a driver or a chauffeur or living on Billionaire's Row, maybe you're just living in a normal apartment in Murray Hill, you're going to run into some more incidents on the subway. Is it going to be every day? No, it's not going to be every day. But you'll probably run into like a serious altercation once a month, right? I run into that probably about twice a month. Like some crazy stuff will happen where it's like, wow, that was a close call and that was very dangerous. So all the stuff you see on the news, it's not like you walk down the streets and it's Armageddon and everybody's like shooting each other. No, that's not true. But what is true is there are incidents that happen, but it's very spread out because the city is so big. And unfortunately, who has to endure all of these, I should say, catastrophes or incidents are New Yorkers of a lower income. Because if you look at the statistics and the data and you say, okay, well, where do these things happen? Well, they happen in the subway. They happen in the Bronx. They happen, at a ridiculous hour in the morning when maybe, somebody's working the night shift or something like that. So the very people that the city claims to represent, their policies are putting them in a really big bind, right? That's kind of what is going on. But, if you watch, Fox News or something, they make it out to seem like it's dangerous to even walk down the street, which that's not true. It's very safe to walk down the street. You just got to keep your head on a swivel, but you're just more likely to run into some crazy incidents from time to time. So hopefully that was a good explanation, but give me 1 second, I got to plug in my phone. Hold on, guys. Oops. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new, because we do these streams almost every single day where we walk around New York City and talk about the financial markets. Someone says all this stuff is really happening in the subways. MDs is to where all these migrants that are flooding New York City, so to speak. Yeah, so I could touch on that. And I think this is important to talk about because it does impact the economy, and, it does, people that are visiting here do want to kind of have a heads up on what's going on. We actually have to go up 2 more blocks. I wanted to show you guys something. So, yeah, it's not like, all right, think about it like this. How many migrants, and do a fact check, because I've been trying to desensitize myself from this media. I believe it's been, 100,000 migrants that have come to New York City. Is that the number? Can anybody confirm that? I believe it's 100,000, right? True or false? We'll go with that. We'll keep it tentative. So 100,000 migrants come to the city, right? That's a lot of people, guys. Okay. Now, does that mean when you walk down the street, you're just going to see droves and droves and droves of people? No, because there's millions of people in New York City. 100,000 is a lot, and if they're all draining the social safety net, that definitely puts a big pressure on us. But for the average person, walking down the streets of New York City or looking at this live stream, they're going to blend in. It's going to be like almost negligible. Does that make sense? However, going back to my previous point, when you take the subway, I took the subway 4 times today, back and forth between Tribeca. On every single train ride I took today, there was, just a migrant trying to work hard, do her thing, make some money, with a little infant baby strapped to her back, selling candies, right? Chocolate. You're going to see that stuff constantly. But are you going to see an Armageddon gang of people, snatching, grabbing purses? No, you're not going to really see that, because those are like isolated incidents. It'll happen. It's not that it's not true that it's not happening. Oh, it is happening, but it happens in and around the places where there's the migrant shelters, right? Like the Row Hotel. I forget the name of the other one, but those incidents are isolated to the 2-block radius or the 3-block radius where the vast majority of the migrant shelters are. If that makes sense, right? So is it a massive problem? 100%. It is a crazy problem, but to the average New Yorker, and again, if you're living in a nicer apartment, if you're living in Tribeca, you're not living near the Row Hotel, okay? But if you're living in and around those places, you're gonna see it a lot more often. So hopefully that provides a little bit of clarity on what it is. Like, for example, okay, many of you that tune into the live stream, it's 180,000 immigrants? So 180,000. Sorry, I misspoke. But for example, many of you that tune into the live streams, you'll notice that we usually start off the streams in relatively the same spot. Here's another smoke shop. In relatively the same spot every day, right? Now, I work on Madison Avenue and 57th Street. That just so happens to be New York City's Billionaires Row, right next to 5th Avenue. You walk a few blocks down, you have the Steinway Tower, 432 Park. So you're really not going to see that stuff there, right? Because it's not there. All that stuff is in those isolated places. I believe there's one migrant shelter in Times Square. There's another one at the Row Hotel. I think that's on 8th Avenue. So if you do a walking tour of, let's say, Lower Manhattan, near the South Street Seaport. You're not going to see that stuff. You're going to see it in those isolated places where they are, right? That's kind of the shtick. Just trying to catch up on some of the comments. All right, let's head southbound. This is now looking northbound into Times Square. Yeah, Claudia, I understand. Like, guys, I understand. Trust me, that it's a big strain on the resources. I'm just the only thing I'm doing here with that kind of long tirade there was just providing context on what it's actually like, as opposed to what you see in the media. So all the things that you see in the media, yes, it's happening, it's true, but it's not like you can't walk down the streets of New York and have a good time. You can. Those issues are isolated to those locations where the shelters are and in the subways. That's kind of the only thing I'm really saying. So I'm not downplaying the issues, because there are issues, and I'm very outspoken about it. But hey, Adrian says, how much money would you recommend someone should make prior to moving to New York City? Well, I mean, you could move here with nothing and you could become a raging success, But it just really depends on what you want to do. What do you want to move to New York City to do, right? I would advise that's very important. Let's actually take a little bit of a pit stop towards Bryant Park. Do you want to work in banking? Do you want to work in finance? Do you want to work in the real estate business? Do you want to work in, tech? Like, what is it you want to do here? Do you want to be an artist? Someone says, what did I have for dinner tonight? I didn't have dinner, honestly. Not yet. I don't know what I'll have. I gotta figure that out. Hey, Mohammed, what's up? Just hope you had a great start to the week. I did. I was in Tribeca today, most of the day, because we had these stagers coming from the staging company, and they fully staged the apartment at 5 Franklin Place. Looks great. Assuming that tomorrow is a very sunny day, I'll try to take a full video tour of our listing at 5 Franklin, now that it looks nice. It's really difficult, particularly at that price point, if you're selling an apartment like $3 million and up. It's so difficult to sell it when you have a tenant in place, particularly if the tenant is very, they have a lot of stuff, they're living in there, right? Because at that price point, there's a lot of new buildings that are spotless and that are staged really well, and it just totally blows you out of the water in terms of the competition. It's so important that when you're showing a property at that price point, it has to be spotless. Like, it has to be absolutely spotless, and it has to look beautiful, right? The kitchen can't be cluttered, because people really nitpick that, and I mean, rightfully so, right? They're spending $3.5 million. Yeah, I'll try to send you guys some. I'll definitely film a property tour there 100%. It's just, I want to film it when there's good light. Anyway, now for those of you who are just joining us, I would say the main thematics for the week, right, kind of reeling the stream back in and going back to the financial markets. Historic day, I should say, last night with the Bank of Japan, the BOJ, no longer negative interest rates. So for the first time in a very, very long time, the Bank of Japan actually started to tighten or hike interest rates to 0%. 0%. Think about that. So yeah, now the target range in Japan is 0% to 0.1%. So no longer any negative interest rates, and Japanese equities totally, I mean, just took off, right? And this is something we've been talking about in the Behind the Street newsletter. By the way, on Thursday, we emailed everybody all of our dedicated equity research. So if you're new to Walks on Wall Street and you want to sign up for our Substack, absolutely free. We have about 2 years of archived research on there. If you scan the QR code on the screen and punch in your email, it'll take you to all of our articles that we write for the chat every other week, right at the closing bell on Thursday. And the declining yen, a weaker yen, has been pushing equities to new all-time record highs. And we had 2 big follow-through days taking Japanese equities into new all-time record highs for the first time since 1989, even before I was born. So as you know, I'm very optimistic on Japan. Right now, when I say this, the stock market is not the economy, right? Okay, let me just repeat that one more time. The stock market is not the economy. That's very important that we lay those grounds, because they're in recession, technically, right now, right? You can say stagflation. Maybe we'll dive into that a little bit later on a different stream, but again, and not to kind of sound like a broken record, but I'll repeat this kind of thesis. The United States could potentially be in a very good position here, particularly the central bank or the Federal Reserve, because you have Europe slowing down in a big way. Pretty much the globe, China's in a recession. I mean, China's going to have to start doing something. They may even have to start easing even more. And if that happens, you're probably going to have a ton of capital flight into the United States, particularly into risk-free assets like US Treasuries. So maybe that will kind of bail the Federal Reserve out from having to cut interest rates themselves. The more money that flows into US Treasuries, the more money, or the more rates will kind of ease up. But anyway, if you want to check out all of our research, just scan the QR code on the screen and punch in your email. If you cannot scan the QR code, just type !news, NEWS, in the chat, and the Nightbot will drop the link to the Substack. This is Bryant Park, by the way. This is one of my favorite places in New York City. And this big building all the way in the distance is the Stephen Schwarzman building. Really beautiful. Yeah, Justin. Yeah, no worries about the cockroaches. They'll go away once you move in. Patricia Ivory, what's up? Hey, NBA Elias, good to see you. So Japan went through years of stagflation for years. Thanks for joining us. This is Salesforce Tower, Mark Benioff, ticker symbol CRM. MD says tomorrow will be a volatile day. Maybe, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Because I mean, it's very telegraphed. Everybody knows what's going to happen. The only thing that is unknown is the verbiage. You know, what people will, or I should say, what the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell will say. This is Bank of America Tower. Now, another thing I believe we need to watch, and this is a poll that I wanted to run in the chat. Now, I need to figure out how to run polls on the live stream mobile. I could do it from the desktop computer, but for some reason I can't do it here, which kind of sucks. Anyway, we've been talking about how crude oil is on the rise again, and the XLE, which is the energy ETF, has been catching a pretty nice bid. So just a very simple question. If you want to participate, type in the chat where you are from and how much is a gallon of gasoline wherever you live. Maybe you live on Long Island, maybe you live in Jersey, right? So just give us like roughly where you live and how much a gallon of gas is, just so we can kind of gauge where things are headed. Because the last CPI report we got, over 80% of the increase was accounted for by shelter costs and gasoline going up, and that's because crude oil is starting to rock. So have you guys noticed an increase at the pump or no? Kumar says $4 in the suburbs. Alan says Topeka, Kansas, $3.12. Elijah says Long Island, about $3.15. Texas, $2.99. Virginia Beach, $2.93. Wow, Oregon, $4.30. Holy crap. Knoxville, Tennessee, $2.80. Wow, Orange County, California, almost $5. That's crazy. The Celtex has jumped 10 cents last week. No way. Someone says San Diego, California, $6. Oh, for premium. Got it. That's crazy. $6. Clearwater, Florida, $3.59. Hey, West Palm Beach, $4.30. St. Augustine, $3.59. Sacramento, $5.03. Interesting. Now, it's always going to be higher in California because of what, that gas tax they have? Something like that. So we'll see. I think this is something important to pay attention to because we're kind of lining up with seasonality. So if you think about demand for travel, well, it usually goes up in the spring and in the summer. People want to go on vacations, people go to the beach. I think the 4th of July this year is going to be absolutely rocking. And that may be why crude oil is now breaking above $80 a barrel. If you want to look at the futures contract for crude, it's ticker symbol CL. And I think it's $84. And the top two stocks that make up, I think 40% of the XLE is two stocks. I believe it's ExxonMobil and Chevron. And after a pretty harsh correction, ExxonMobil is in spitting distance from new all-time record highs, so we can kind of use that as a leading indicator. So hopefully inflation doesn't ramp. We'll see. Wow, Darren says where I am in California it runs about $6.50. Yikes. Hey, RB's evening time and all today in Miami Beach. It was $4.69 for regular. Well, Miami Beach, they price gouge, right? Particularly because it's spring break. I'm sure all the spring breakers are getting hammered at the pump for sure. MD says crude is $82.50 right now. What do you guys think? Will we be over $90? You think we'll be over $90 a barrel by the summer? Stan says you do, Peter says you do. I mean, for a trade, we'll probably make some money on it, but that's actually really bad news. I'm hoping it doesn't, because that means, I mean, if crude oil, okay, my prediction is if crude oil rocks over $90 a barrel this summer, you pretty much have a lock on 3% sustained inflation in the US, unfortunately. Tim says gas goes down in January by a lot. Check out the spire of the Empire State Building today. Yeah, did anybody get a chance to watch? Oops. Did anybody get a chance to watch NVIDIA's keynote yesterday? Any thoughts? I still haven't gotten a chance to watch it. Wondering if you guys have any takeaways. Royce says, I'm with NBA about this. It will go up but can't sustain at record production by fall. Let me scroll back and see if I missed. NBA says $90 with the summer travel season, then it will revert back in the fall. Hopefully, fingers crossed. You know, I still think back to the pandemic when we went negative on oil. Wasn't it, I mean, just what a freaky time that was. Wasn't that just like the weirdest time ever? Hopefully we never have to live through anything like that ever. Again, I should say. What a weird time. All right, everybody, we are now coming up on, well, not coming up, we're here Herald Square and the flagship Macy's. This is 34th Street and 6th Avenue. This is a cool view. You can see it's so clear tonight that you can see all the way to the World Trade Center. John says NVIDIA is the only game in town with AI hardware right now. That didn't change no matter what the keynote was about. But they did say that they have a product in the stream that'll be 12 times faster. I gotta find time to sit down and watch it. Hey, Tom M, what's up? Just got my bill for trash removal, up 22% year over year. You know what's insane too? I noticed that. So my trash and water bill is like ridiculous in my house in Miami. It's crazy. Just for the waste, like for the garbage removal and the water, it comes on a single bill. It's crazy how expensive it is. Has that happened to anybody else in the chat, by the way? If you're a homeowner, has your trash removal or water bill gone up like a ridiculous amount? All right, let's cross to the southbound side. Harry says, Tom, back in the mid-70s, gas in Central California was 25 cents a gallon. Whoa. Wow, Ace Options trading. I didn't see that. The new iOS update. MD says yes, Tom, both. Yeah, mine totally blew out. Go forwards is $50 a month more. It's insane. Fun feed says and counting. Yeah, we're in inning 1. Oh yeah, TK Porsche. You were telling us yesterday. I still didn't get a chance to watch it. Let's see what TK Porsche says as I cross the street here. This is Tom. NVIDIA held a financial analyst meeting this morning. In 10 minutes, Jensen gave a brilliant, condensed version of the 2-hour keynote. Highly recommended. I'm going to check it out. It's probably on their investor relations page, right? I've just been so busy today, I couldn't watch either. But thank you for that. I'll check it out. Definitely need to find time to sit down and watch that. Speaking of NVIDIA, I had a great day today. It opened down, and this is a good thing to talk about because that is bull market action. By the way, you'll have corrections right across a lot of these true market leaders, but you'll have the basketball underwater theory or the beach ball underwater, right? If you ever swam in a swimming pool and you dunked a beach ball underwater, the moment you let go of that beach ball, that thing goes skyward. It's the same concept in a lot of these model book stocks with all the earnings, with all the sales, the return on equity, the pre-tax, after-tax margins. These stocks will sell down, right? Because of profit taking or, portfolio rebalancing. But then those pop right back up because institutional sponsorship will support them. Right, they'll buy these names. So it's kind of like a follow the money theory. Where is the smart money going? What stocks are being supported? And chances are, stocks go up for a reason and stocks go down for a reason. And stocks are expensive for a reason, and companies are cheap for a reason, right? It's kind of like the the value trap fallacy. So it's going to be interesting to see and pay very, very close attention as we head into a corrective phase here. Which are the stocks that are getting supported, and they'll really stick out, right? That's why you should run those up to down volume scans and screens and all that stuff too. I think I'm gonna get boba. What do you guys think? Should I get boba tonight? I know that's not dinner, but maybe I'll get dinner and then I'll get some bubble tea. Then I gotta go to sleep. This is now New York City's Koreatown. This is West 32nd Street and Broadway. Hey, Lori Crockett Owens, good to see you. Here's another good shot of the Empire. Jeff says your HOA is going up. MD says, Tom, talk about the National Association of Realtors settlement. Yeah, we can talk about that. We'll talk about that, and then we're gonna kill the stream short because I gotta go. We've already been streaming for 2 hours. So essentially, I think it's gonna lead to further commission compression in the industry, just like every industry, right? If you've been listening to Walks in Wall Street, one of the main things that we've been talking about in terms of a historical perspective of Wall Street has been fee compression and commission compression, right? Chances are, if you go to buy or sell a stock, you guys don't pay commissions anymore because of payment for order flow, right? So a lot of people like to bag on payment for order flow, but that's the only reason why you have zero commission trades. Additionally, back in the 80s, you had mutual funds. When you would buy into them, you'd have to pay 5%, right? It was called a load fee, LOAD. You'd pay 5%, then you'd pay a 2% expense ratio for them to manage and lose your money. And then when you wanted to sell it, you would pay a 5% exit load fee, right? Due to technology and due to competition, that really doesn't exist anymore. Even some of the highest fee mutual funds are like 1.5%. In the real estate business, it's a little different, in which case the seller would pay the commissions. So for example, let's say if, somebody wants to sell your house, and in New York City, it's very different because we have very high price points. But let's say if it's a $250,000 house, right? The seller's agent would essentially negotiate the commission. Let's say if it's 6%. I never see 6% in New York because we're dealing with, the team I'm on, we're dealing with multi-million dollar properties. They're not paying you 6% to sell a $20 million property. So that 6%, the buyer's agent would get half of that 6% if they would bring the buyer, right? This new, essentially the settlement says that the buyer's fee has to be removed from the MLS. So what's probably going to happen is the seller's agents will be the only ones that are compensated, and the buy side will not be compensated. So if you want to work with a realtor on the buy side, what will probably happen in most cases is you're going to have to either negotiate a fee from the buyer's agent, which most people are not going to do at all. So a lot of people will just go unrepresented on the buy side. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I think in general, in the market that I'm in, I think that's a really bad look, to go unrepresented on, $3.5 million purchase or something, especially like a new development purchase, when if you work with somebody, you could negotiate, the sponsor paying the transfer taxes, the sponsor paying the mansion taxes, the working capital. So I think it'll hurt first-time home buyers, but at the same time, it'll force people to do more diligence and be more educated on their purchase. That's what I think. I think overall commission compression may be a big positive for the industry, I think, in my view. And that may sound a little bit counterintuitive because I am in the industry. We do have a big listing business, but that will probably force, and this has been one of my predictions going back a long time, I think this is going to force a lot of part-time real estate agents out of the business because they'll starve. You won't make any money, which will be good because the people who will be left will be the people who are doing this for a living, that know the business inside and out. Because the vast majority of people who give real estate agents a bad name are the people who get the license, they have a full-time job, and then they, bust their cousins or their aunt's balls about, oh, just buy through me, and then they do the transaction, and then they screw over the person because they have no idea how to do a business transaction, right? So I think the industry is probably going to go from like 1.5 million agents, maybe down to 400,000 really solid rock stars, and the market will become more efficient over time. And I think real estate agents may even make more money from it, which is good. So there's positives and negatives. The biggest thing is, which kind of I can't relate to because there's no 6% in my market, but it was the collusion of a lot of these big brokers to price fix the commission at 6%, right? Now, commission is always negotiable, but therein lies the collusion, right? If every real estate agent you talk to on the street refuses to do the listing below a certain percentage, well, that's, you're colluding to fix that price. And I think that's unethical. I think that's a big ethics lapse. And now that is essentially gone, I think that's good. So just in any industry throughout history, there's always going to be disruption. There's always going to be commission compression. I think it's good for consumers long term, and I think it's good for professionals who actually are in this business, that do a lot of business, and are in it to actually service their customers. Like, if you're a good agent and you have a big network and you do the right thing and you actually help your clients and not just, run up and get a commission check, you're still gonna make money. If anything, you're gonna make a lot more money. But we'll see what happens. I think long term, this is the last thing I'll say, and then I got a boogie. I think you'll see more iBuyers like Zillows, Redfins, but you'll always have a market for tailored white glove service, particularly at the very, very high end. I think I attribute it to like family office style. If you're very, very wealthy and you're dealing with somebody's estate and you're doing transactions in the multi millions of dollars, it's a convenience play, right? Somebody that's looking to sell, generally speaking, someone that's looking to sell their, $25 million estate, they're looking for convenience. They're looking to work with a professional, and they're looking to work with somebody so they won't have to deal with it. Okay, those listings are not going to go by the wayside and go to an iBuyer because they don't want to deal with it. At that level of wealth, people are willing to pay for service so they don't have to be bothered with things. So at the lower end of the market, like $250,000 homes, yeah, I think that can be more transactional, and that's pretty good, right? But there'll always be a market for very high-end or large transactions to be, I should say, more hand-holding and more white glove service, I should say. But that's kind of my prediction. I don't know if I'm going to be right. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But guys, with that being said, I really got to run. I appreciate all of you. And we will see you soon. So NBA Elias, thanks for joining us. Austin City Limits, Lori Crockett Owens, Pineapple Water, Debbie, MD, Stan, Abdullah, G. Raymond. Have a good night wherever you are. And there's always a bull market somewhere. I'll see you guys tomorrow. My end button is not working. Huh. This happens once every few months where I'm unable to turn off the stream. Maybe it's the temperature change. Hold on, I may have to turn off the phone here. Hold on one second. So I really would like to know your opinions on this stuff in terms of the National Association of Realtors settlement, because there's a lot of differing opinions and I want to hear them all, but unfortunately I have to go. So maybe we'll pick up where we left off tomorrow. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'll have to put you guys in my pocket for now. All right, I'm gonna have to power down the phone. I'll see you guys later.